Just weeks after Nvidia became the first publicly traded company worth $4 trillion, Microsoft has now also hit that seemingly astronomical financial milestone. Both companies appear to be benefiting from a boom in artificial intelligence. And we should note, Microsoft is a financial supporter of NPR. For more, though, on what this all means, we have called up our regular guest, Roben Farzad, host of the podcast Full Disclosure. Hey there, Roben. It's good to have you with us.
Hey, Asma.
So just the other day, I, in fact, reported on this very show about Nvidia hitting that $4 trillion mark, in major part because of how it had invested in the early days in computer chips that are now used and vital in artificial intelligence. Now we're seeing Microsoft also at that $4 trillion benchmark. I should just pause here and acknowledge, as I'm saying these numbers, $4 trillion, that is just an unprecedented amount of money. But talk to us. What explains the boost in Microsoft stock?
Well, look, it did have to survive 10 years or so in the desert in this century. It started off the century, let's say January 1, 2000, with a more than $600 billion market cap, which was tops. Okay. But back then, you had other players right next to it, like General Electric, Cisco, Intel, which has fallen from grace. Nokia, do you remember Nokia?
Those phones? I do remember those little phones. Yeah.
And for the longest time, Microsoft had to pay extraordinary dividends and buy back a ton of stock and beg people to buy its stock. It was dead money. And certainly they missed the smartphone craze. It's not like anybody's carrying around a Microsoft smartphone right now. But they did catch cloud computing and they did catch AI, and they made the enormous investments, and now they're able to reap that and break a $4 trillion milestone.
That is what I think is so interesting about this, is Microsoft is a company that seems to have managed to reinvent itself over the decades. When I first heard this news, it took me back, flashbacks right to Windows computing. You now say cloud computing is vital to it. Can you talk to us about what explicitly helped them reach this $4 trillion mark? Is it cloud computing, and how is AI involved in that?
Because it just uses tons and tons of cloud infrastructure. Azure is their product. And
I see.
You know, that for the business that it is, it increased 34% in the annual revenue period to $75 billion. You don't see companies like that would be an S&P 500 company unto themselves. And that revenue is driven by AI and the huge demands on power and computing and Microsoft's adjacency to ChatGPT. And so it's been a beneficiary of that. Meanwhile, nobody's talking about Microsoft Office or Windows or, Microsoft Surface tablets. Microsoft also owns LinkedIn, and it's a tiny footnote in its earnings. But similarly with Amazon has AWS, Amazon Web Services, which drives the value of the company, not, Whole Foods, not shoe sales on Zappos. So it's fascinating to see that these difficult investments that were made over decades are finally paying off.
So, Roben, just briefly, what does all of this mean for AI going forward? Do you see these valuations as being really real? Any possibility this is a bubble waiting to burst?
Of course it's a bubble, but look, Alan Greenspan called a bubble in 1996, and it took until 2000 to pop. These things can continue as we try to get our heads around the enormity of these shifts, the enormous trillions of dollars being invested in it. Of course, you're going to see $4 trillion, $5 trillion companies.
Well, Roben Farzad, host of the podcast Full Disclosure, always a pleasure. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Asma.